All right, two African coaches at this FIFA World Cup. One has a date with destiny when his side comes up against Colombia on Thursday. The other, well, he will be packing his bags when his team plays its last game against Panama on that same day. I'm talking about Aliou Cisse and Nabil Mahmoud of Tunisia. We'll be talking about that and a little more coming up on the show. But first, let's have a look at the headlines.
Oh, genius! Absolute genius! Would you believe?
Coming up on the press box, Indian best striker Brian Umonyi joins us to talk the World Cup and more. We also put our finger on the pulse of the World Cup lots we drew a few weeks back. Remember them? The Fabulous Six weighs in on whether African coaches are getting a raw deal from their federations. But first, a look at some worldies straight out of Russia.
Just away by Torres, the captain, stretching. And turned back in. What a strike that is! Ace Mertens puts Belgium in front. Belgium could not have planned a... Ronaldo. Oh, genius! Absolute genius! Would you believe it? And it's a hat-trick for Cristiano Ronaldo.
What a way to start for Brazil! What a hit from miles out! Brazil leading the World Cup. And that's what the world has wanted to see.
Now he'll unleash one! Sensational goal! And surely now, Croatia's golden generation are on their way to the last 16.
Trying to get round the back of Arneson. He's in, it's Musa, across goal. Musa surely! It's the Ahmed Musa show. And Iceland caught flat-footed at the back once again. Arneson couldn't get the challenge in. And Musa makes it 4 goals in 2 World Cup matches.
Cuadrado can really put the icing on the cake. It's 3. Juan Cuadrado scores for the 2nd World Cup finals running. There's no doubt about it now.
Window of opportunity for Germany to earn a victory here. Kroos will go for it and score! An inspirational moment from Toni Kroos. Well, when they're down, when they are tested, they find a way to win.
Fantastic. Goals, goals, and more goals. The World Cup that just won't stop giving brilliant goals. All right, I'm joined by the usual suspects, ladies, and a gentleman and a lady. Of course, Mark Sally, veteran journalist and, of course, head of communications at UNRWA. And, of course, next to him is Robert Madoi, who's a sports producer and editor at NTV. And next to him, and next to me, rather, is Andrew Mangusha, who's a columnist on the Daily Monitor. Now, we'll just link up a bit with Asha Komugesha, who is standing by to tell us what should we expect on social media. Asha? All right, we'll be catching up with Asha much later on the show. Mark, let's start with you. And I know UNRWA has been doing very many beautiful things, very many green things. We're talking about 10 billion trees in 3 years, beautifying the road network. What's that about?
We're playing our own World Cup, yeah? At UNRWA. No, it's not 10 billion. I mean, we're planting lots of trees, but not 10 billion. It's 10 million trees over the next 3 years, yeah. We have a project called GROW. It's, it stands for Green Right of Way, and we have a campaign where we're going to be planting lots of trees on our highways. We have a nursery at Namangve, so we're doing the seedlings now, and then we'll be transplanting live basically, and then taking to our highways. What we're doing is we have 23 stations across the country. I'm sure every place you come from has a UNRWA station, which you've seen. Fort Portal has one. So yeah, so yeah, that's how it is. So then our stations will take over, and then the execution will be done there, and we'll be planting these trees. It's a project that we have And they'll be planting indigenous trees as well as decorative ones. And there have been so many suggestions on Twitter since we put it on the other day about what we should do and what we shouldn't. Somebody was even saying plant bananas and branches and things like that. But anyways, we're doing this. Okay. But it's also it's a long-term project of ours because we want to beautify all our highways and also conserve the environment. You know what trees do for us. They are carbon dioxide intake. I'm sure you remember your photosynthesis from science in primary and all that stuff. And also, I mean, as far as you know how our roads get washed away because of the lack of protection of the soils and the bad agricultural practices we have in the countryside in places. And then you get these floods and things, the big rains and landslides. So this is one of those things that will help. But it's also part of our celebration of UNRWA 10. I've told you that this year is actually our birthday. So Sunday is actually our birthday. We make 10 on Sunday because we were born July 1st, 2008. And we've got huge celebrations coming on all across the country. I've said one or two things about them here before. Yeah. Yes, yeah. And the planting of trees is going to be one of them during these 6 months because our birthday celebration is going to be 6 months. 10 years is special. But there's so many other things we're going to be doing.
Fantastic.
But largely all of it to assess and to share the impact on people's livelihoods of UNRWA's projects over the last 10 years and how we are going to affect people's livelihoods over the next 10. So all the celebrations we're doing, if it's exhibitions, whatever it is, even if it's countrywide tours to our signature projects, or going to communities to ask them what has happened with how they've been impacted, tourism, trade,
sports.
Yeah, even sports. I mean, we're playing football against the journalists. By the way, we're playing football against media and against our contractors, local and international. It's one of the things we're having, as well as perhaps either charity walk or a marathon. One of those. I'll confirm that. It's one of those things we might want to participate in. Because it's all for charity and all for the communities.
It's a birthday. Actually, and we do hope the press box will be invited.
The press box, I've already promised you guys we could do a show on the Nile Bridge. It would be fantastic if Golden Tulip will let us. Or we could do one on a ferry. Yeah, it would be quite an experience, wouldn't it? It's one of the things that you are one of the stakeholder groups that I'd like to take one of our tours of our signature projects.
Confirm the show on the ferry, please.
On the ferry, yeah?
That is Mark Namanya. He's the head of communications at. Sorry, Mark Sally. Why Mark Sally is the head of communications.
Namanya is a pal of yours.
He's the head of communications at UNRWA, and of course, we'll be following that up, Mark, with you, and you'll be giving us updates as well. Now, if you remember, on this month, June 4th, we did have a raffle where we selected and picked just random teams. Everybody picked 5 teams. It was me, Andrew, Madoy, Mark, and as well as Asha and Kabura, who's down in Russia. We picked random teams that we thought would, make it to the tail end, and we would follow up with them. Of course, these do not reflect our true predictions. I will go as on a disclaimer and say that. But Mark, you picked Tunisia and Saudi Arabia, who are kicked off. Portugal, Belgium, and France. Which among those 3 that are left in do you think will make it to the tail end of this competition?
Well, it's possible that all 3 that I picked could actually go a long way. And tail end, I mean, is relative. Are you talking quarterfinals? Semi-finals is only 4 teams, so if I have 3 out of 4, it would be a bit unfair on the rest of the show. But it's quite easily possible, depending on the paths they take. Now that they are actually playing their final group games, because I've got those 3 teams that are doing very well. None of them, like you say, was my prediction. None of them is the team that I traditionally support. But those are the 3 I picked out of the lot.
That you're just following
up. They're doing really well. Portugal right now leading against Iran. And the way it is, they could even win that group because Spain is not winning against Morocco as it is. So Ricardo Quaresma just scored on the stroke of half-time as we came on air. And they're now leading into half-time. So if Spain can't find a winner, Portugal will even win the group. And winning the group means playing against the hosts, Russia. I think even if the hosts have a strong backing at home and everything, you'd rather play them than play against Uruguay, because Uruguay have got World Cup experience and things. So the path determines who gets to that Final 4. But if it's strength on paper, Portugal is perhaps the weakest of the 3 giants that I picked.
So which would you go with?
Because right now, as far as form on paper is concerned, Belgium are actually the strongest. The French have got the biggest quality, and they've got a bit of history to back them up as far as World Cups are concerned, which Belgium don't have. And when you look at France's opening 2 games, the feeling you get is that they can actually play better. That there's more to come. I don't think they've hit peak. They've not reached their full potential. And sometimes it's good to grow into tournaments than to start like a house on fire. Because the teams that start like a house on fire usually don't win it. So that's why I worry for Belgium and England. So whoever picks England will tell us. But
looking at him.
So but the thing is, Belgium are very balanced team. They've got a lot of firepower. I actually, in my heart of hearts, hope that Romelu Lukaku wins the Golden Boot, and that is not because of Romelu Lukaku wins the Golden Boot over Harry Kane and Cristiano Ronaldo. That has got nothing to do with the club he plays for. Believe me, it's a totally different sentiment that has Lukaku over those two for me. And it's also got to do with, he told his life story coming into this tournament. It's one of those things. Virtually every sportsman has a rags to riches story in world football, but this one touched me. The Lukaku story really touched me, and I just wish good things from him since I read that story. But anyways, they're very strong. They've got firepower.
But their defense, and you've heard the saying that a good defense wins you a tournament.
Though you might worry about that, but
really sixes and sevens.
Yeah, sixes and sevens. Alderweireld and Van Tongen have had a good season with Spurs. They are experienced defenders, if not at World Cup stage, at least in club football over the last 4 or 5 years. And then they've got Dedi Boyata. I don't know how Martinez came up with this selection ahead of others for their back three.
I think sitting in for Company.
Company, yeah. So, but they're not very strong there. And Courtois, while he's a very big man and has got a bit of experience, at World Cup level, he's not your, say, Rui Patricio of Portugal or Fernando Muslera of Uruguay. There are some guys who are playing their third tournament or major tournament or fourth. Some goalkeepers have been there, done that. He's not that. But they can get away with it because of the power of their midfield and the strength of their firepower. Still though, like I said, even if they have not reached their full potential, you get the feeling that once France hit stride, they have the ability to go further than both Portugal and Belgium. Like I said, of the three, Portugal are the ones I think are the weakest. The only difference is that Portugal are doing the right things. They know their weaknesses and their strengths. They've settled on that, and there's no pretense about it. They defend well, and they play for their star. So their star man. There are no egos in there. Nobody is begrudging Cristiano all the limelight. You know, Cristiano the other day, one man of the match when it actually should have been Rui Patricio against Morocco. He scores early, fades out of the game because virtually Portugal were overrun by Morocco, to be honest. And he still wins man of the match. If it was another country, there might be problems there already. You could hear things in the camp and things. But everybody in Portugal seems to accept who Ronaldo is and what his role is on the team, and they play for him. It is to their strength that they do that.
So, Mark, are you going with Belgium?
Belgium, yeah.
Out of the three, are you going with Belgium?
No, I'm actually going with France.
France.
I'm going for France, yeah.
Robert, I will be coming to you, Mark, in a bit. Robert, you picked Argentina, Spain, Croatia, Denmark, and Sweden. All of those teams are still in the running. Argentina
is just hanging on. Max
Argentina.
Because he picked
what team
predicted Argentina.
Robert, what team out of those five would you say you have hopes in?
Argentina, Croatia, Spain,
Denmark, Sweden.
Very, very interesting. I think it's a very strong lineup. Croatia has never won the World Cup. They reached the semi-finals in '98, and there's been obviously this buzz, about the team after that terrific display against Argentina, and rightly so. Their midfield pivot of Rakitic and Luka Modric is world class, and it's been the standout. So the temptation is really to go with Croatia. I like the look of the team. I like Rebic. I've been watching some bit of Bundesliga the past 2-3 seasons, and I liked what Rebic was doing at Frankfurt. Scored a brace actually against Bayern in that German Cup final. Does fabulously well playing out on the wings, and keeps out Brozovic, who is no slouch, as we know. And their side, you have Perisic, who is a seasoned campaigner. gets in lovely crosses, which Mandzukic usually gets at the end of. But you know, there is Spain. I know currently, you know, they're sharing the spoils with Morocco.
So what team would you go with?
I think I'll go with Spain on the basis that they have, you know, the pedigree, and I suspect, you know, they have already made it to the business end, which is the last 16. They haven't really hit their peak, which was a point that Mark was alluding to. That once, you know, you hit your peak, once you peak too early in these tournaments, you tend to, you know, to peter out. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I still believe there is lots more to come from them. Obviously, you know, you have a Diego Costa who has, you know, this fire in his belly. You have Isco, who scored today a brilliant goal, you know, set up by Iniesta, and you know, that brand of football of theirs, you know, pass, move, create space, get the ball, pass, move, tiki taka. You know, it's a beauty to behold, and I'm thinking it will take them places.
All right, and this is just a team that you're keeping tabs on. It's not
yes.
what you predicted.
No, I
know what you predicted
Germany.
was
Yes,
Germany.
yes.
But somebody who picked Germany in their raffle is the man next to me, Andrew Mangusha. You picked Australia, Peru, Germany, Senegal, and Nigeria. Two of the remaining, if I can say.
Give Nigeria. Come on, Andrew. Andrew, Nigeria. Come on. Come on.
Andrew, let me ask you. Let me ask you.
Why are you ganging on me? Like the world is ganging on Messi.
Let me ask you a very tricky question. Which among these five, yeah, Peru is out. Which among these four? Actually, Australia is out, I'm thinking. It's about mathematics for them.
I think
they're out.
You're trying to take away my analysis of
no.
Senegal and Nigeria. Just these guys had to dig deep.
Andrew, I want to give you Germany, Senegal, and Nigeria. Which of those three? That's not your prediction. I know yours was Brazil, but out of those three.
I think first of all, I was glad the beautiful glove of Dennis Onyango did that for me. I was away on that show. Of course, on paper, mine looks quite simple. Germany, tournament team. But of course, they've struggled to get out of the blocks. Finally, they did. But before, I know Germany should go all the way among the three. But looking at Senegal, the way they've started, of course, that late equalizer against Japan put the spanner in the works, and it could, you know, cost them their progression. But I still think they'll just go over the line in that group. And then Nigeria also started quite, you know, on the hard note against Croatia. But they managed to pick themselves up. Looking at you guys, I think you were really impressed the way Ahmed Musa took those goals, world-class goals. The first, the control, the dispatching. And then I still have to go with that team that I think will get out of this. Just like Max Ali said, starting slow. We've seen Germany. Manuel Neuer in the previous game, for me, again, showed the Manuel Neuer that we know. And he's hugely responsible for that win they had. And then, of course, Thomas Muller has not come to the party yet. And we know what he is to these World Cups. So far, this is the only one big-time player at the World Cup. And, of course, Toni Kroos coming to rescue it at the end. That pedigree, for me, should back them to go at least all the way to the last four.
All right. Yeah. I did pick Colombia, England, Morocco, who are out. Serbia,
Colombia
and Uruguay. No, Morocco are out.
Yeah, Morocco are out.
They're out. So Colombia, England, Serbia, and Uruguay is what I was left with. And I'm thinking I'd go with Colombia and Uruguay. England are playing out of too much... what should I call it? Passion for the following with the English media. Too much passion. Yes, too much hype.
Two World Wars and one World Cup is coming home.
Exactly. So I'm thinking it will be a disastrous campaign if they're eliminated by either Colombia or Senegal, who they might face at the tail end. Let's link up with Asha Komugisha and let's ask her about her choice: Panama, Mexico, Switzerland, Poland, Japan. Asha, are you there?
Yes, Joel, thank you very much. As usual, we are very big on social media, and
tonight our question is, who do you think will win the Golden Boot at the FIFA 2018 World Cup in Russia? And of course you can join the conversation by going to the NTV Facebook page and leaving your comment there, which I will read later on, or you can also use the hashtag NTV PRESSBOX on Twitter, and I'll get back to you soon. As always, we have a guest in studio, Uganda Cranes striker Brian Umonyi, who'll be talking everything about the World Cup and more. As for my starter, I'll concentrate really on Japan. I think they've done well so far. They've made a good account of themselves. Their 2-2 draw against Senegal was really out of passion and determination, I should say. And it was great to see Keisuke Honda getting a goal at really his age. 3 World Cups in his legs. Brilliant performance by Japan. Back to you, Joel.
All right, very many thanks, Asha Komugisha. Asha is right for, she's right. No. Embarrassment in Panama, of course, and probably Poland. But she's right, and I'll support her in saying that Japan is a dark horse, if you look at it in a different way. Yeah. Because they're very unpredictable in the way they play. They're very fast with their pace. So it's not a team that people are really too keen on. And I think that is, you know, I'll go with Ash on that one.
I think they're the very embodiment of team spirit, aren't they? Yes. They play for each other. You know, looking at that match, you'd think that you know, the standout player is Shinji Kagawa, the ex-Manchester United player, but he got lost within the team spirit. So they play for each other, as you said. You know. Close down spaces. They're quite physical, by the way, because they took on a Senegalese side, you know, which has guys who are 6'4",
twice their size, to be honest, and they're matching them for physicality and beating them to some aerial balls. Some of that stuff was shocking to me, by the way.
Guys, before we go for break,
let's not forget they beat a very solid Colombia team. Yeah, very solid. Which Colombia team just overran Poland the other day?
Yeah, so well, Colombia got a man sent off early, so maybe it had something to do with it.
Gentlemen, just before we go for a break, I'll ask you for now your predictions that you made. I know you had Brazil, you had Germany. Mark, you had Argentina. Quickly, in 2 sentences, how do you rate their performance right now?
No, it's been poor. They've been decidedly poor. The coach made some changes from game 1 when they looked limp against Iceland. He made some changes, went for a back 3, dropped some big names, Di Maria and Marcos Rojo. Tried to change things around, but still it didn't quite come off for him, because Argentina were decidedly second best against Croatia. Now any team can be in the World Cup, so I still, even if everybody has lost all hope, the little hope I have is in the fact that they can rise to the occasion against Nigeria and get themselves out of the group. Now sometimes, and we've seen that in history many times, it doesn't matter how you get out of that group as long as you do. When the knockout phases come, you can become a completely different team in a tournament. It's happened before. I am hoping for them that it
France,
does.
Didn't he match? No, 2006 actually. Yes. Raymond Domenech was all over the place, and actually the players are the ones who ganged up against him and decided, you know, yeah.
And same story
and this is what is happening.
The
players are going to choose the team.
We need to go for a break. We need to go for a break. Robert, Germany.
Yeah, I think Andrew, you know, lavish praise on Germany, and rightly so. Never write off the Germans, as they say. You know, we grew up with that statement, you know, reverberating in our minds, that never write off the Germans. And I think they're a tournament team. They are slowly getting into their own element. I thought, you know, they took it as a given that the teams were going to come and they would just roll over them. I remember, you know, when Marco Reus was rested for the opening game against Mexico, he said that actually, you know, this tournament is going to pan out over a protracted period. So the coach resting me means that you know, at the business end, I'll come in and give my all. But right now, you know, they are fighting for their lives, and they are not despising opponents. So they are taking each game seriously, and I think, you know, they will go a long way.
Andrew, just like Germany, we saw Brazil coming in with 2 goals very late on. You think they're going to, you know?
I think they recovered brilliantly after they won the first match, 1-1 draw with Switzerland. when you look at the goalkeeping department of Brazil, and then through the middle, Casemiro, and then going forward, Coutinho and Douglas Costa. Yeah. And these are guys who are stepping on the plate when Neymar has not come to the party yet. So I have hope that as the tournament goes on and Neymar will announce himself, this is his first real tournament besides the Olympics where he's coming in and is ready to play.
All right. Yep. Fantastic. I'm being told there is a goal that has been scored. We'll be running those pictures for you right now. Being told Ronaldo's penalty has just been saved.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Messi must be having the last laugh there.
What's the problem?
All right, those pictures are courtesy of SuperSport. We'll be talking about those matches as they are currently happening just after this break. Plus, African football, the two coaches that remain. One is definitely still in it. The other, well, he has to pack his bags and leave after his last game against Panama. That and much more after the break. All right, welcome back from that break. Let's take you back to Saransk, where Iran is taking on Portugal. Cristiano Ronaldo has just missed a penalty. That was in the 53rd minute. And of course, in the other game, Morocco is taking on Spain. It is currently 1-1. Morocco looking to be party poopers in that match. But let's talk about the Iran-Portugal game. What's the possibility, or what should happen? And I don't want to think it can happen, but can we imagine Iran coming on to beat Portugal in this game?
The way the World Cup has panned out, you can't put it anywhere beyond them. But the fact that Portugal are leading right now, and the man has missed a penalty, so you'd think he wants to make amends before the match
like
ends.
A man possessed.
Yeah, so I still think Portugal have enough ammunition in them to go over the line.
All right. Robert, Spain, Morocco.
I would like to agree with Andrew. You know, I watched the Iranians their match against Spain, and I thought they gave a really good account of themselves. A typical Carlos Queiroz team, very compact. They make life pretty difficult for you. We expected that, but what surprised me was how good they were. Offensively. When they went a goal down. Against the Spaniards, they literally, attacked the Spaniards. They did not give them any breathing space, and actually, I think one of their goals was chalked off because of the player was marginally offside. So they are a decent team, and if they manage, to beat Portugal, it would mean, the Portuguese will pack their bags and leave the World Cup. So it's there is all to play for in this game, and that's why, the Portuguese fans are going to be hoping that Cristiano Ronaldo will step up to the plate and make amends, after that that penalty miss.
Yeah, the Portuguese coach put in some fresh legs today. Dropped Bernardo Silva and Joao Moutinho, and brought in Adrian Silva, Andre Silva, and Ricardo Quaresma. Those three have not been starting games, So the fresh legs have helped there with Quaresma getting that goal. He's a very experienced man, and it was a vintage Quaresma goal outside of the foot. Yeah. You know how he gets those. It was a beauty. But thankfully for them, like Andrew says, they have the lead. This is a group that was very difficult because of the way Morocco and Iran apply themselves. Yeah. You get the feeling if these two were in a different group, they might be in the knockout phases. If they played elsewhere, because it's just amazing how intense they can be. I saw with the way Morocco pressed Portugal. It was unbelievable. There were three men swamping every man in possession from the minute Ronaldo scored to the very end. And like I said, I thought Rui Patricio was man of the match. I think a close second must have been Pepe, defending out of his skin at the back. Yeah, because that's how serious it was. I thought Cavani also played well. But it's only the defensive players that you could see because that's how good they were. And I thought Morocco have been a touch unlucky. They shouldn't have lost that game against Iran. But the Iranians themselves, having won that game, have really applied themselves. They against Spain, they did really well. They didn't hurt David De Gea, actually, until today had not made a save. He's only been picking the ball out of the back of his net because despite playing very well, the Iranians, they couldn't quite get close to him. The Spaniards know how to protect territory, especially with their possession. Those two teams should still go through the way it is. I fancy, actually, in that game, I fancy Spain to still get a late one. Okay. A late winner. They've got
and top the group.
They are top the group. They've got firepower to call upon even from the bench. They know how to change things around. If they threw in say Marcos Asensio there and one or two others, perhaps a forward, they don't have too much in the way of real number 9s. I think it's Iago Aspas, actually, who's deputizing for Diego Costa, surprisingly. But they do have the ability to change things around and still remain an attacking force. Okay. They'll be really hard to beat when they get into the knockout phases, Spain.
All right. Of course, we'll be keeping tabs on that and those matches as they go on. But as we told you earlier, there are 2 African coaches in this World Cup. That's Aliou Cisse of Senegal and Nabil Maloul of Tunisia. One of them, though, is still in it and trying to win it, and is the youngest coach on the tournament. That is Aliou Cisse of Senegal. We shall be talking about if, African FAs should give more time and more trust to these homebred players. But just before we get into that discussion, let's have a look at Aliou Cisse's Fact Fire. Much different Aliou Cisse from the one who played in Senegal at the 2002 World Cup. Long address, of course. But gentlemen, should we invest more or have more trust in homegrown coaches, homebred coaches for that matter? Because we've seen most Nigeria's backroom staff is all white. It's only, I think, Senegal whose backroom staff is an all-African cast. Should we entrust our African homebred coaches for this task?
Interesting question. I think with the performance of Aliou Cisse, what he showed us is that probably, we should. And looking back at Uganda here, with the kind of season, should I say seasons, Mike Mutebi has managed to get in for KCA on the continent, you also wonder, how many Mike Mutebis do we have, and do we trust them that much? If you ask me, I would say we do not trust them that much. When we employ them, we do not pay them as much, as we pay, the foreign coaches, and we do not give them, that leg room, to do as they wish. They are always operating on a short leash. So I think, we need a mindset change in Africa. We need to be believing more in our own coaches, but also we need to develop our own coaches, because I think because we don't believe in them that much, they themselves have started second-guessing some of their decisions, and it's had, that domino effect of loss perpetuating loss.
Yeah, ultimately we just need to give our coaches a chance. What has happened is one of the things that FIFA did at Sepp Blatter is that they tried to level the playing field in some of these aspects of football, and so you can actually, the coaches go through the same drills to get their badges across the world. It doesn't matter if you're training in England or training here. You do the same things to go through your badges. Now, what's left largely are two things. One is for our coaches then to take a keener interest in the broader dynamics of football, the global dynamics of football and the changing times, so that they are at the same par with the guys who are much more exposed in Europe, because these are guys who are playing with the best players all around the world, collecting them in the same places and playing in competitions that allow them to get that exposure and experience. Now, our guys don't have that. So what they have to do is to keep keen and keep themselves abreast with the changing times. Because there's one of the things that I've heard from some Ugandan coaches here is when you, even if we were on a panel like this, or if we were in the Chirasha, or somewhere writing a newspaper column, they'll say, don't compare us with the other guys. Don't make comparisons that are not practical and things like that. Truth of the matter is that if you don't keep yourself abreast, there's so many changing things. There was a time, for example, when it was in sync to be ultra defensive and highly tactical, the way Jose Mourinho was,
to play two out and out strikers. Some still do.
Yeah, and some still do. And then it's changed. There are coaches who have come in there, some young dynamic coaches, and have taken us back to the all-out attacking days, where rather than have very strong defenses and good goalkeepers, they'd rather defend by pressing high, winning the ball early, and then hitting you in the transition at pace, the way Klopp and Guardiola are coaching their teams, and things like that. So you need to keep abreast, that kind of thing. But and it's absurd. One, apart from the pay, is that even if we give these people jobs, we don't trust them that much. If you're a FIFA president, Lawrence Mourinho or Moses Magogo, you're not going to walk into the camp if you've had a foreign coach and start making decisions. You're not going to send cheats from the pavilion down to the bench asking for changes to be made to the team. But when you employ your local, you might be tempted to do that, and this has happened before. That kind of thing, if we cut it out and give them a chance, we have got guys here actually who can coach the game. Here in Uganda, we've got guys all over the African continent who can come in and be coaches. I remember, because what I've only used the examples here because they're true.
If I may come in, and this is an example that I'm sure would resonate with you. You remember Paul Asule when he got Uganda close to qualifying for the Nations Cup finals.
Yes.
And he actually went to Rwanda and picked up what was a credible draw, goalless draw.
Yeah.
And FIFA ended up sacking him and hiring Pedro Pasculi, who didn't speak a single word in English, but just because, you know, he shared the dressing room with Diego Maradona, he got the job. And what happened was Rwanda ended up beating us here on our home turf, and
we
things
missed out
went
on the
south.
Nations Cup, and yet in Rwanda, we'd only been unlucky. We should have won that game in Rwanda. We were the better side, and then we came here and messed it up. But what you saw happened with Asule, what you see happens, say, with the Moses Basena, if you leave him in charge, has happened all across the continent. Even Keshi was quite successful with Nigeria, and he should perhaps be coaching them at this World Cup as well. But they never give him the benefit of doubt that they'd give a foreign coach. And it's the mindset change that he's talking about. I fully support him on the fact that we need to have that paradigm shift in where we believe actually in the ability of our own people, and then empower them. But one, by training them, and two, then by exposing them. It's a good move, say, for example, to send Bassett and the goalkeeper Kajoba to the US. If the intention is to actually bring them back so they take charge.
Actually, that was a move from Ibra Sekaja. It was an invitation.
Yes, it was.
Not a
federation.
Let me ask this question, and feel free to give me your thoughts, gentlemen. Andrew, I'll start with you. Is it because maybe probably football associations think that they can deal with the demand that a local coach will come with, other than that one that, you know, a foreign coach will come with? Because I'll give you an example. Joachim Löw's salary is $4 million a year, and Aliou Cisse's salary is $170,000 a year. You can see the gap in
huge disparity.
Yeah, there's a huge disparity. Is it because for example, a Ugandan FA can come and say, you know what, we can deal with that coach. We don't need to pay him that much money. Yeah.
I think the problem we have is inferiority complex, which runs from the big men to you are wondering why do I pay Ugandan this amount of money, and then you bring a South American or a European and you pay them easily that amount of money. The problem we have across all aspects in the country is the patronizing of people. You give someone a job and you expect them to, you know, whatever they do to go down before you. That's why Mike Mutebi, when he got the job at KCA, he had his demands, and he made it clear, this is what I want. Now, a local coach in Uganda, because they're desperate for the job, they will not lay down what they want and FUFA live up to it. We've seen some coaches work for FUFA without contracts, and they go on. Actually, the first Ugandan coach to get a contract was Sam Timbe. Under Bobby Williamson?
Yes.
Under Bobby Williamson. So you have a problem straight all the way from the top, not just sports, whereby when you get a job from someone, you become a slave to them, and you must do whatever they want. So that problem is very apparent in Uganda. Now, if you have a foreign coach, they'll have a stand, and they'll also decide whether they'll make their demands clear. And the only thing they tend to give in is to allow a local coach as an assistant or something. But that patronization should stop, and the local coaches given a leeway to do what they want. But the problem comes in because these coaches are not given, you know, the necessary tools to do their job. That's by taking them to these courses and all. They do not have, you know, the self-esteem to put their foot down and say, this is what we want. The moment you don't respect yourself, no one will respect you. And that's the big difference between Mike Mutebi and the other coaches. The way you conduct yourself in the public, the way you lay out your strategies. You turn around in Uganda and tell me which club is run close to an institution. There's only one. There's only one. So the coaches need also to have that spine of, we got this.
Yeah, and the thing is, in Africa, we have got to have not only self-belief, but pride.
Yeah.
That pride where we say national things. Because in Uganda, there's been the culture of if a product is stamped on made in Uganda, you'll buy the one which says made in Kenya. And yet, if they're the same things, and perhaps made in China or wherever. And yet, personally, for me, I've had a paradigm shift in my own life. I'd go with local over foreign in many instances. For example, because I know, I mean, while Ugandans might want to be fraudulent, I've not seen a Ugandan factory try to do, say, plastic rice. And then you might go into a supermarket and ignore our stuff here and buy plastic rice because it's got a label of made in a foreign country. And I'm not walking into a supermarket and buying any other brand of sugar but Chinyara or Kachira, or you know, that kind of thing. I wouldn't do that where it's possible. But that we need that kind of paradigm shift. I've been and it's large in so many, because when you look at the cultures across the world, it's very difficult to have a foreign coach coaching Japan or South Korea. Very difficult. These are strong cultures of teams which are not first world in football. And yet you go across South America and you've got Jose Peckerman coaching Colombia, when Higuita and Valderrama are like fans in the stands. I don't believe in that. And actually, when I saw Colombia play yesterday, the way they played, I thought that I didn't think even Peckerman was actually in full control.
Peckerman is a citizen now.
I think he was citizen,
he was granted citizenship.
I didn't even think he was in full control. His philosophy was totally against what was happening. Because first of all, they were playing two number 10s in Quintero and James Rodriguez. And I was thinking Peckerman parks the bus, the cab driver parks the bus. And now they're going all out and playing some of the most beautiful football at this World Cup so far. So, and I'm thinking, why is it Higuita in charge of that, or Carlos Valderrama? So it happens in South America and here, where we don't have that belief in ourselves, and yet we're supposed to be able to empower ourselves to do it. There are teams, I mean, there are teams that will, I mean, Brazil or Argentina, for example, it's not possible. It's not possible for a foreign coach to actually coach those teams. But they are football powers for a long time, but perhaps that's one of the reasons. Because actually, when there's the little difference between them and us in other aspects of social life. Why then should it be different on a sporting level under those circumstances? Because it's because of the belief they have in their own culture. They've built a culture of theirs in football or sport, in which they empower themselves, believe in their own abilities, and think every other product is inferior to theirs. So they're not having a foreign coach, which is, and it's so funny that actually of the superpowers in football, England were the first to actually have a foreign coach. But again, it was it boiled down to lack of success over a long time, the drop in self-belief, inferiority complexes, and things like that. Because to be honest, I don't think if an English coach was empowered, they would do as well as Sven did. I don't think he's the best foreign coach they'd have picked anyway.
Actually,
but they did.
Mark,
now they've gone back. I mean, now they've gone. Look, they're doing very well at World Cup with a young coach with barely any experience at that level, Gareth Southgate. Why would you want your national team to be handled by a foreign coach?
I was reading somewhere in 1975. Actually, Tanzania banned foreign coaches, but of course it didn't work out well because they eventually went back to them. I think we also have to let it, organically grow into it. We cannot just throw it at them. We have to ensure the federations and governments should ensure that at least we have serious coaching courses and these, exchange programs.
Because if we're allowing it to grow organically, if we may borrow a leaf from England, what they actually decided to do is with their youth teams, because that's when they decide, to blood these coaches and let them grow with the youth teams. But in Uganda, what you will see is they are going to ask Mitchell, to come in and help, with the under-23 team, or they will ask Dusabre to help with the under-20 team. You and I know that he went to Cameroon to help Matia Lule, I don't know, to iron out one or two issues. So it's that.
And that's the same thing, actually, Senegal have done with Aliou Cisse. Aliou Cisse was in charge of the under-23 for 2 years. He's been in charge of now the national team for 3 years. He was the captain in 2002 when they reached the quarterfinals. So he's been given chance to learn from a player coming through the under-20s, and now he's in charge of the team, and you can clearly see he's in charge of it.
All right, just before we head to Asha Kumugisha, who is on the social media desk, Mark, do we see change in the near future with this kind of setup, or is it just work in progress?
What do you mean? Like here in Africa?
Having local, like in Africa, more especially.
It helps when there is success. Aliou Cisse could actually open doors. I thought Keshi might, and it just didn't happen. Because again, like they said, they were not being developed organically. Here in Uganda, there's more coaching courses, and there are more guys actually doing their badges now than 10 years ago. So there's a start. You know that the federation has done some work in getting people to actually train and be qualified, because you might what Andrew was saying, you can't. It's good to be organic. You can't then wake up one day and say no more foreign coaches when actually there's even FIFA rules to what kind of license you should have to be able to handle a national team, and our guys didn't have them before. To be honest, even if we wanted them to. Now they can do those coaching courses. Like I said, they need, because since they've been standardized across the world, we need to get more people doing those courses. But when they do them, there's got to be continuity. After they've qualified, they've got to continue to learn. They've got to go to do more coaching, more courses. And then they've got to keep abreast with the dynamic global changes in the game. Expose them. Allow these coaches to experiment, allow them without putting them under too much pressure. Because, for example, I'll tell you,
Mark,
when Bassena was in charge here, they kind of tried, before FIFA actually gave him a contract, you remember he was on trial at Sekafa, he was on trial at Chan, he was on trial. I mean,
basically he was a man on trial.
The pressure you're being put under to prove yourself, rather than for you actually be given the chance because those are, I mean, if you had been appointed and told, you know what, you're in complete control now, go and do the best you can with a young team, because this team is for Chan is our team for the future. Team for Sekafa and Chan is our team for the future. And then he would have done that with a little more confidence. Then you're not playing for results, because when you're playing for results, you're coming into a game, you're getting defensive, you're using veteran players where you should blend in some youth, you know, that kind of thing. So there's not going to be any growth because of that pressure. Give these guys a chance. to experiment. Let them even learn on the job. I don't care. Let them even learn on the job. As
But
long as we know where we're going.
Joel, before you leave, 20 seconds. 20 seconds. One thing that Mark has said that should not be lost upon us is the fact that these coaches have to read. And I know we have a very poor reading culture here
they have to read
in
and
Uganda.
watch the
Yes,
game.
they have to
across
read
the
and
globe.
watch the game.
Yeah.
I keep talking to Ibra Sekaja, who is based in the US and who is part of the Red Bull, no, New York Red Bull. Yes, backroom staff. And he tells me, you know, he's always reading. It's just like he's in secondary school. You know, you keep reading. Even Mike Mutebi also, I talked to him quite a bit, and he used to tell me that he keeps reading. Yeah. Because football is about that. You have to read, and for our coaches, they don't want to read.
I'll tell you, and when he says reading, when he says reading, I'll just say, it's not like you're going to pick up volumes of 1,000 pages of encyclopedia stuff, that kind of thing. Just changing. Some of our coaches here, even after they've qualified and got their B licenses, you go to a training session and it looks like 1986.
Yes.
People are still skipping over hurdles
Precisely.
and
doing 25 laps.
And doing 25
Yes.
laps because you're not keeping abreast with global changes.
Training into
Yes,
the
many new
midnight
modern
candles.
methods.
Actually, there's a time a FIFA instructor came. There's a time a FIFA instructor
excuse me,
came,
guys, I have to
and he
interject
told
here.
he instructed.
Okay.
You know, one of the assignments
Okay,
was
20
just
seconds.
to warm up the
I'll-
team. Yeah, one of the instructions was to warm up the team. I'm sure you heard this story.
Yes.
Of just a warm up drill. And all the coaches who had gone, for that instructor course, the Ugandan coaches, they failed miserably.
To warm up the team.
Yes.
Okay. I'll give the coaches a little bit of break. I think it's holistic. An organized coach informs of an organized federation. I'll give you a quick story. In 2010, when we were going to play Kenya, of course, the organization, the suspension of Obua from the camp, and then that game. FIFA had all match balls for the day, and they had written the word Uganda on the match balls, which is against the CAF, regulations. Now, 45 minutes to kick off, the match assessor tells FIFA that the match is off because this ball is contravening the rules. They had to get ways on a bike, and they had to get balls from the federation. That's 45 minutes to kick off. And we all know what happened. So the organization is not just the coach. It starts way from the federations, and they play a huge role in seeing that we have an organized coach who brings an organized game on the pitch.
You know your time, 20 seconds. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Andrew. Now, earlier on, we did ask you, being on social media, we did ask you in our poll, who do you think will take the Golden Boot Award? Will it be Harry Kane, who scored a brilliant hat-trick yesterday against Panama, or is it Cristiano Ronaldo, who is 1 goal behind and just missed a penalty in that game against Iran? Asha Komugisha is at hand to tell us all that and more. Asha?
Thank you very much, Joel. As we mentioned earlier, of course, we are asking you on social media, who do you think will win the Golden Boot at the FIFA World Cup in Russia? Now, you can join the conversation by commenting on the Facebook page of NTV and also using the hashtag NTV PRESSBOX on Twitter, and I'll be reading your comments later on. Well, as I mentioned earlier, of course, we have an amazing guest here with me on set, someone who has played football on 3 continents, for Portland Timbers in the United States of America, for SuperSport United in South Africa, for St. George in Ethiopia, and also for KCCA here in Uganda, and is currently playing for Golkram Kerala in India. Welcome to the set, Brian Omoyi.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be in the press box.
I can see you're very excited. Well, quickly, it's been an exciting World Cup so far in Russia. What have been your, what do you think about the World Cup so far?
Look, what I pick out from this tournament so far is anything can happen. Right now you can see Morocco is giving Spain a run for their money. Of course, the so-called big teams that we knew would go through easily, like Brazil, Argentina, are having a very difficult time navigating through the group stages. So, I mean, it's been a tough start for those big teams, and very competitive as well. Exciting because I see a lot of goals being scored. Yeah.
Well, you have a charity event this Saturday, June the 30th at the StarTimes Stadium. Please, what is that about exactly?
Look, football has blessed us so much. In the spirit of giving back, we also want to bless those guys coming behind us, guys who look upon us to inspire them. So there is a community where I grew up from. It's called Naguru. I have identified that community, picked it out specially because I'm attached to it. A community that struggles as well. The same situation I've gone through, coming up as a football player, they're going through it. Yet here I am in the same position. I can help them, put out their plight to the community, to the society. So in the spirit of giving back to football, I'm trying to raise awareness first of all and inspire these kids to play football, because right now that's the only way out in that community.
Naguru has, developed so many greats in Ugandan sport. Just recently, Mira Juma winning bronze medal in boxing at the Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast in Australia. So I take it, when you go down there and talk to these young kids, you're trying to inspire them. What do you tell them exactly?
Look, it's my journey that I share with them, mostly nothing special, what I went through to get to the top, and it's exactly the same thing they have to do. I always emphasize the spirit of hard work and honesty in that hard work. So, I mean, only thing I could tell them is to get to the top, you gotta work hard, Yeah.
Well, I have a quick question for you. Do you think that Uganda can qualify for the next World Cup?
Of course, given what I'm seeing right now here, anything can happen in football. And you can see as well that the most organized teams, the most prepared teams are doing so well. So I mean, if Uganda did the same, organized well, prepared well, I mean, it stands a chance, Yeah.
Well, I have some questions for you. I hope you'll be ready to answer them.
Right.
First of all, who's your best striking partner?
My best striking partner? I would pick Robert Sentongo, because I did a lot with him at KCC.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then what's your best goal? What's that goal that you always think about and say, I would like to score such a goal?
Look, there's a goal I scored my first tournament here in Uganda, my first chance to play for the national team. It was against Tanzania. Mm-hmm. It was probably a 30-40 yarder. I always, think about that goal. I always dream about that goal.
Mm-hmm. Well, who's your toughest opponent ever?
I've always said this, and I will say it again. Michael Azira, very stout guy, very strong guy, very intelligent as well. He gave me a hard time.
And who's your role model?
Well, my uncle, I've always said that because of the virtue of hard work. I've learned this trade of mine here through hard work by looking at him.
Anything else you do outside football?
Well, I've ventured into family business. That is what I can say about it. But I'm also into business right now.
Okay. And is there any ritual you do before games?
I pray. I believe in God. I'm a believer, and I think in all that I have to dedicate every game that I'm going to play to God.
Mm-hmm. Who's been your funniest teammate?
Well. Rest in peace, Johnson Bagole, very funny man. We've also had Simeon Masaba as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your most stylish teammate?
I'll also go back to the KCC days. There was some Mobiru.
Mobiru.
Yes.
Your dream car?
I've always thought about the Hummer, because of its masculinity. It's also a strong car, a masculine car.
Well, thank you very much, Brian Umonyi, for coming to the press box and blessing us with your presence. Well, as you had him, he has a charity event on June 30th on Saturday at the Start Time Stadium, and you can just go over there and support him, be a part of the Naguru Give Back, and of course, as the press box, we'll be there to support a brother. Well, we're going for a quick break, and when we come back, Joel will be telling us more about the World Cup.
All right, welcome back from that break. We won't waste any time. We'll just go straight to that game in Saransk. And we told you this World Cup is a World Cup to remember. Portugal have just conceded a penalty which Iran slotted in. That game is currently 1-1, if I'm not wrong, and it's into the 90th minute. While back in Spain, Spain have equalized against Morocco, and that game is 2-2. Dramatic scenes in Kaliningrad and Saran.
Don't you just love the new player in the World Cup, VAR? We have more penalties, I think, than ever.
Yes,
and we are seeing life, someone is living, then they are dying suddenly just because of VAR. But I'm loving it because we are seeing the game pan out with justice being played. Previously, we've seen games lost because we didn't have that other option of the video. Yes, the human effect, blah, blah, blah. I'd rather a game is won on red grounds.
Yeah, and so imagine me, I'm the conservative, which understandably, considering my age and all. So I'm a conservative, and I was totally against VAR. And but I've had to accept that I'm fighting a losing battle here. The truth of the matter is that it's here to stay. And my consolation, I was telling friends of mine, is that we'll get used to this. And then one day we won't even remember a time without VAR. Because right now, if I told some people who watch football now that there was a time goalkeepers picked up a back pass, they'd kick me. but it used to happen, and in my time as well. So and things have changed, and it's been what, more than 20 years now since they last picked it up. There's a time when it was new. So we will get used to this one.
We shall.
The thing was that today, I was actually, when I said, okay, now the Conservatives we've lost, it was the game between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. There was a VAR decision that took long, and the television actually played an advert. I thought we'd gone into halftime because it was at the stroke of halftime. Did you see that?
Yes,
I thought we'd gone in. Then we came back and actually the penalty was taken. And I was like, people, an advert before halftime in a football game, I have lost. I concede defeat.
The Super Bowl.
Yes, it was like American sport all over. And I was like, okay, I think I've lost miserably.
Hopefully we don't start interviews, coach interviews in the 43rd minute.
They were talking about quotas in football. They introduced breaks for water breaks the other day, and I'm like, people, what's happening to my good old game? But things change. It's a dynamic one.
Robert, should this match end the way it is right now? Should Iran draw with Portugal 1-1 and Spain draw 2-2 with Morocco in Kaliningrad? What does that mean for both teams? I'm guessing that is Spain and Portugal.
What that means is that Spain will have dodged the bullet. They will avoid playing Uruguay, which is
it's a real bullet.
It's a very tricky team. I watched them playing against Russia today, and both they are star talismanic players. That's Edson Cavani and Luis Suarez scored, and they are going to go into the knockout stages with the bit between their teeth. And if you're Portugal, you didn't want to play against a Uruguayan team which has competed, in the World Cup for years on end, and they know their way around these knockout stages. Before Spain got that equalizer, you'd feel for them. I was thinking, going to face Uruguay, but facing Russia, Mark, you've been defending Russia. You've defended their defense, their three-man defense, which has, a 39-year-old at the heart of it. But I think, Spain facing Russia, they would fancy their chances. They would run at that Russian defense. And
they would. You'd rather play the hosts, because today Uruguay actually showed that Russia are fallible, which wasn't the case in the first two games, so you worried. But they are beatable. They've got an old defense, like you said. Well, Portugal, I think, also have. I mean, in Pepe and Fonte must be the oldest combination at the back. But they
have Cavallo.
It reminds me of one issue which we actually haven't discussed. Maybe we'll get a chance to discuss more about it next Sunday. Is that there's actually a doping cloud around that Russian team?
Yes, there is.
There's always been one.
There's a doping. Because the thing, there was there's allegations of institutional doping, which was supposed to be on that team, the same way the Winter Olympics team in Sochi was. There's a guy actually who's now in witness protection, Rodchenko, the guy who was in charge of doping in Russia. He's had to escape to the US and is in witness protection. And he's the one telling all these stories about how...
No wonder, he's in the States.
About how the Russians we're planning actually to dope this entire team up and actually switch urine samples. And he seems to allege that FIFA are in collusion, or they knew about this thing, because FIFA is supposed to have investigated. There's a guy actually who was caught, but eventually didn't make the squad, the cut. And now FIFA said that there was not enough evidence of any doping in the current team, the ones that the guys that made the cut for the squad. But in the first 2 games, they ran more kilometers than any other team at the World Cup. By the way, Russia. This is a team that had not won a single game
at the World Cup.
Not at the World Cup. In the year of preparing for the World Cup, and then they come here and all of a sudden
they were preparing for the real
Although, to be honest, I'll tell you, the English media can get on you, and and the thing is, while in England, which and we have the same culture here, by the way, and you understand why. Friendlies are taken way too seriously because players are being marked out of 10 by the Daily Mirror and the Standard and the Daily Mail and the Sun and the Guardian, and there's too much pressure on everybody, performances and things like that. There's not enough proper room for experimentation, which is I've liked Southgate actually because he went bold and even went with a back 3. And if things had backfired, the English would have slaughtered him. But it's worked for him. But other nations allow, for example, the Russians. You know your World Cup hosts, you don't have to qualify. It is the time to actually do all the experiments in the world so you can get to the right team,
so
the
they
right
went
formations,
to the lab
and the right things. No, they were doing those with their friendlies and they were not winning. So then they're being judged on not winning friendlies and winning so well here. Yet, to be honest, when I looked at their players one-on-one, which many people, especially the betting people, were asking me, and I was telling them the Russians would win those opening 2 games, and they were saying, but it cannot happen. And things, they haven't won in a year, and I said, I don't care. They have Zuba, they have Sheshev, they have Zagoev, and they have Smolov. They have. So I was telling them they have good players.
Mark, I'll flip the coin and say, in the absence of Russians annoying the Western media by not, indulging in ratio, slurs and all. So this is
they have to find something.
Something has to be found, and this is doping.
The way they did with South Africa and Brazil in the previous
Exactly.
We can confirm that both those matches have ended. Iran 1-1, with Portugal. They were full-time scores actually. And Spain 2-2 with Morocco. But Robert, I beg to ask, if you're the Iran or Morocco coach, you get to have a feeling that your team should have played like this from the start of the tournament. Because going into this competition, no one would have put their money on Iran.
More so Morocco. I think Iran, had acquitted themselves, and also Morocco had done, terrifically well.
Morocco have played the best football in
the
the group, but without scoring
until today. I thought, they took the game to Spain, caused them quite a bit of problems, and actually had them running scared. They actually needed a set piece who would have thought, Spain,
Spain would get that set piece,
from the set piece. So I think Iran, they covered themselves in glory. They did really well, as I said before. The game against Spain, Mark said they did not trouble, David De Gea that much, but I thought, they acquitted themselves. Because we knew them as a rock-solid team defensively. But for me, the game against Spain, I saw them, there were a few pretty patterns here and there, and they were causing Spain a bit of problems. Obviously, they were fortuitous against the Moroccans. I thought Morocco actually took them to school. And Morocco was just profligate, wasn't it? In that game, they should have buried it in
Morocco, they've played really good football, and they're going home, but I've loved the team setup and the way they've played. I've loved even individuals in there. That guy Ziyech, that is what that's a beautiful left foot. That is a cultured left foot, as cultured as they come. And it's unfortunate that he's had to go out of the tournament like this.
And by the way, Mark, about 17 players of that team in Morocco all play outside Morocco. And for me, if you're a Moroccan and looking at the coach Havrina, this is the perfect preparation for Morocco for Cameroon 2019. And I think they're ripe to go all the way in 2019 in Cameroon after this performance here.
All right. We've talked about, the teams that are leaving, but we haven't talked about Egypt, guys. They lost to Saudi Arabia today.
Big disappointment.
Big disappointment.
That was a huge disappointment.
A result no one thought would come to light.
But I think, given that that's an Arabian derby, you can call it. Arabian derby, you can call that. I'm not in shock that actually they lost, but it comes back.
Beautiful win,
and there are 2 late goals that have killed Egypt. First match against Iran, and this one here. But when you look at how Egypt qualified, guys, let's look at the percentage of goals. I think Salah scored more than 3/4 of the goals, and the fact that they started the tournament without 7, without the man himself. and even when he came, he still managed to put in 2. You stopped to wonder, maybe how could it have been? But the moment Salah walked off that pitch against Madrid, Champions League, I just knew Egypt were done.
I actually think they have the wrong man in the dugout. They have an ultra-conservative coach, Hector Cooper.
Who should be managing Cameroon,
who should be managing defensive teams and not teams, that have players who can play, a game attractively as do the Egyptians. I thought, Hector Cooper's tactics did not stand the Egyptians in good stead. But I should say, it was nice seeing the old man, El Hadari.
Coming to break the World Cup record.
He saved the penalty?
Yes.
And conceded one?
Yeah, he conceded one, because it was raining penalties in that game, it's unfortunate, because I hadn't even considered, when I was thinking through who the weakest teams at the World Cup have been.
Tunisia,
I was thinking Tunisia, I was thinking Panama, and I was thinking the third one should be Saudi Arabia. I wasn't thinking Egypt, and then now Saudi Arabia come and get a win, go home with a win, and they don't. But I still believe Egypt is a stronger team. It's just it was unfortunate course of events for Egypt that led them to this point, and so perhaps then they drop into that bottom 3. Well, for me, those are the 3 teams that I've considered to be the weakest, and which shows you the strength of Iran and Morocco is such that if they'd been in one of those groups, they probably have qualified with one of the others.
Yes.
Yeah, if they'd gone into one of those groups.
Yes.
It's just unfortunate that they had to play against Spain and Portugal.
And Mark, I think why whenever someone mentions Saudi Arabia, why we think it's the weakest, I think all of us flip back to Germany, German Saudi Arabia, when closer squad headers, every header that came, he just put it in. 8-0. So I think every time you mention Saudi Arabia, I'm like, oh, that's the team. So today they managed to really pull it off.
Before we switch back to Asha for more of your social media engagement and comments, I want to ask about your predictions on tomorrow's matches and how you think they'll go. Of course, tomorrow we have Group C games and Group D games. That's Denmark against France, Australia against Peru, Nigeria versus Argentina in Group D, and Iceland versus Croatia. Let me start with Iceland versus Croatia. How do you see that one panning out?
Tricky game that I think Croatia is going to rest 1 or 2 players. Not that, they have a poor bench. As I said, an embarrassment of riches there. You have the likes of Mateo Kovacic, you have the likes of Brozovic on the bench. These are nice players to call on to. And you're coming up against an Iceland team that does not score that many goals. But the way it sets up is it's really compact, and they have this nice organization about them. I still fancy Croatia to nick that one, but only just, But obviously the game that all of us south of the Sahara, all of us Africans are going to be looking out for is that, pitting Argentina against Nigeria.
Which I wanted to Andrew Mangusha.
Which also has GOAT, Ahmed Musa.
The GOAT, yes. Strange because these teams play each other
a lot.
Nigeria and
Argentina virtually in the same group every World Cup. I remember even at US '94, as far back as
2002 with England as well. Nigeria,
Argentina. They were still in the same group. But I loved that the Nigeria coach made the adjustments that he did for the second game. We've seen teams, teams which have had to make changes. To make adjustments because of a bad performance or a bad result, which puts them in desperate situation for the second game. So I talked about how Germany, you saw, out goes
Khedira,
out goes Ozil, out goes Hummels at the back, that kind of thing. And Argentina did the same. The Nigerians switch. Out goes Iwobi, out goes Igalo. In comes Ahmed Musa, in comes Kelechi Iheanacho. Adjustments in midfield, so they introduced wing backs and go to a back 3. And I thought that they played a much better game in that second game than they'd done in their first one. I have a feeling though, and unfortunately, and this is a team that I really fancied, and I hope I'm wrong. I just have a feeling that I just have a feeling that Messi is actually going to do a number on them. Because in my heart of hearts, I just will not. I refuse to accept until it actually happens that Messi is going to limp out of this World Cup without having an impact on it. I refuse to accept that because I'm thinking it probably is his last. Well, he will be 35 in Qatar, and he could still come back. But he would have lost a yard of pace, and what it takes away from a game of a guy like Messi, he might not make the Argentina squad at 35.
And
to be honest, so this is it. So there's 90 minutes between Messi and limping out of off the international stage. Remember, this is a guy who had quit after the last one. I mean, after the last one,
after the Copa,
the Copa, the last Copa, he had actually walked out and reversed his decision. So for him, because I look at him and the body language of the first two games, and I'm thinking, Lionel, come on. Even if things are not working out, I'd like for you to. I mean, you've got Neymar. He's not played any football since February, and he comes in here, and you see that he wants to do something so bad that eventually when he got the ball into the back of the net, he broke down sobbing. And I don't see any emotion from Messi. Any positive emotions of somebody who's saying, you know what? Right now, there's 3 players in front of me, and it's not happening. When I try to pass to whoever, I'm taking them on, and I'm going to for that goal. I have not seen it, but I'm thinking, this is it. Unfortunately, against my own African team, this is when Messi is coming to the
Andrew, given the fact that these two teams have played each other a couple of times in the past, do you see a Nigeria upset in this one, or are you with Mark that Argentina will go through?
You see, that's a very tough game. That's a very tough game to call. For once, of course, you expect great things from Messi, but I mean, in this World Cup, he has to just offer them for us to believe, because the first 2 games clearly, like he said. But again, before the match, they have to sort their dressing room. We've had reports of the players, coming up, not listening to Sampoli, even in the game against Croatia. Surely, you saw he wasn't in charge because it was just slipping away from him. And now we have players who are said to be appointing making the selection for tomorrow. But the question again looms: how on earth is Dybala not playing football for Argentina? And that's where the questions come in, the players themselves and the coach. So they're out of depth, and also before we even think of Messi doing something special against Nigeria, for the first time, Nigeria is facing a team born out of disorganization, when previously it was the reverse. The reverse. And Mascherano, actually, when asked before the tournament, he said their only fear about Nigeria is their disorganization, because Argentina don't fare well against chaos. Now Nigeria are facing chaos. We don't know how it will pan out.
I know. But when you talk about Dybala, the other changes I think that Argentina should make for that game, they should find space for Eva Banega to play.
Yes.
They've got Lucas Biglia playing with Mascherano as 2 anchors, as 2 pivots. And I think they don't need 2 pivots in a game in which they must win to survive. Must win to survive. They've got to have a little more creativity on the pitch.
Someone who passes the ball. They don't need Messi to be dropping, to be playing the number 8 role when he should be playing number 10.
To respond to Joe about how I think the game will pan out, I think my heart is with Nigeria. My heart is with Nigeria, but something tells me that someone could cry tomorrow, and if it's not Messi, then it's got to be Ahmed Musa. But I think Messi has all to lose tomorrow, and they just have to do something.
Actually, Nigeria beat Argentina in a friendly in Russia this year.
Was it 3-2?
Yes, it was 4-2, I think.
It was odd that they should play a friendly against the same team.
Yes, I found it quite odd. But an interesting subplot to this match is obviously the clash between Obi Mikel and Lionel Messi.
For the Golden Boot.
If you remember, back in 2005, Messi actually beat Obi Mikel to the Golden Ball, for the FIFA Youth Championship. And actually, everyone, the smart money was on Obi Mikel winning that. But it turned out that Messi had a brilliant final game. He scored, I think, a couple of penalties, had 1 or 2 decent runs in that match, and Nigeria were beaten 2-1, and Messi ended up taking up that. So it would be interesting to see, but obviously Obi Mikel has his detractors. He says he sees himself more as a 10, actually, and not a holding midfielder. He says when Chelsea was playing him as a holding midfielder, he viewed it as a job. He was doing a job, but he's more at home playing as a number 10, and it will be interesting to see, how he fares in that role. I thought, he distinguished himself a bit,
Yes,
during the Iceland game.
Second game, yeah.
The second game, but the first game,
Yeah,
I
never thought I'd say it, but they looked organized. Where Argentina actually looked very disorganized.
Yeah.
Nigerians actually looked organized.
But you see, again, if I may cut you in, because before I will lose this, and I have to throw this because I think he's the most complete striker and is one of my best players, Mauro Icardi. I don't understand why Jorge Sampaoli decided to leave Mauro Icardi. When you look at the the Argentine attack, you look at Sergio Aguero, you look at Messi. It's more of like for like. Icardi is a big guy, but he offers you, he's good in the air, he's good with the ball at either feet, and he's going to score you goals. You're assured of getting goals. I don't understand why Jorge Sampaoli decided, to leave him behind. But there are so many things I don't understand about Sampaoli's tattoos. For one, no one understands Sampaoli.
Somebody sitting on a show like ours in the UK actually called him a pub owner. The truth of the matter is that, I'd like for Argentina to be a little more bold. Actually, I'd even start Di Maria as well tomorrow.
Yes.
I'd start him and I'd start Diabala. I'd make it a more attack-minded team.
Yeah.
And the Mensahs of this world and Christian Pavons and all would be substitutes for my veterans if they fail to deliver. But for example, when I think about the chaos that Victor Moses caused down the right against Iceland, why don't you put Di Maria so he has to defend a little bit?
Okay.
And there's a problem of Caballero in goal as well.
Keys actually for that.
There's a big problem of Caballero in goal. Big problems.
And I heard Maradona is seeking audience to the team. He wants to speak to them before that match with Argentina. We'll be coming back to your predictions about Group C, which has Denmark, France, Australia, and Peru. But let's switch to Asha, who has your social media reactions and thoughts. Asha, what are people saying on social media?
Earlier, of course, our social media question was, who do you think will win the Golden Boot at the FIFA World Cup in Russia? And I have some comments for you from our social media pages. Solomon Destiny said, Kale Singa, Uganda went in for Egypt because they have done nothing, and if Harry Kane keeps scoring those penalties, maybe he will take it. Well, Paul Jr. Chimbawa says Diego Costa because Spain are still in the race, and he believes Lukaku and Kane could have tried to niche the Golden Boot, but they will not exceed the next stage. Then Chela Courier says CR7 hopefully, but it's too early to tell. And then Edward Chagulanyi believes Ronaldo will make it and win the Golden Boot in Russia. And of course, Arise Nshine Okurut Isaiah believes also that Ronaldo will win the Golden Boot. And then Fine Boy Royal Blinks says Diego Costa. And then Tugume Abaya says Harry Kane, as well as Steven Eyadu. Well, it looks like we have Cristiano Ronaldo, Diego Costa or Harry Kane as the top contenders for the Golden Boot on our social media pages. Thank you very much for keeping with us on the social media. Well, back to you, Joel.
All right, thanks, Asha. What I'm getting here is that most people on social media are suggesting that it'll either be a three-horse race between Ronaldo, Diego Costa, and Harry Kane. Before we go to Group C, one word, one name. Who do you think will be your Golden Boot award winner?
Diego Costa and Lukaku, one of them. I think Lukaku.
Lukaku.
Yeah.
Robert?
That's a tough one.
Harry Kane?
I think Harry Kane. I think it's going to be Harry Kane, actually.
All right.
Yeah, look, Harry Kane looks like he's doing a Lineker 86, the way things are going, or Alan Shearer at Euro 96. Because sometimes England bring that number 9 who actually gets their goals. And if they draw smile on you...
And you can claim any goal.
Yeah, if they draw smiles on you, because after Belgium, they look like they might get a not too strong team in the round of 16. So he's got chances. But for me, I already told you at the beginning of the show, it's Lukaku all the way for me. Come on, Romelu. It's Lukaku for me.
I'll share your sentiment because I'm rooting for Belgium all the way, so I'll go with Lukaku.
You've left England.
I was never for England. That was just a raffle draw. It doesn't necessitate. That's what I think. That's the team I think we'll go with. I'm with Team Belgium with this one. Before we leave, gentlemen, there is Uruguay and Russia in Group A. Denmark and France in Group C, and Australia and Peru, which is more or less a dead rubber, again in Group C. What are your thoughts about those games?
Like I said, I think France are yet to bring their A game. They haven't played consistently well over 90 minutes in any one of these games to justify the pre-tournament favourite stack that they had along with other teams like Brazil and Germany. I think this is a good opportunity for them too. Denmark, solid team. They play typical European style. Yeah. And they organize, they defend well, they use numbers when they have to and everything. They can get physical when they have to. They can play it on the floor, they can go up in the air. But I believe that France are going to be much improved from the first two games. There's going to be a little more improvement. And I fancy them to win that game actually and go 90%. Although I also feel that Didier Deschamps is going to use the opportunity to play one or two guys who haven't played. I fancy, say, N'Golo Kante to take a breather, or Nzonzi maybe for Pogba, or that kind of thing. Even up front, I think that there might be a change or two. Olivier Giroud starting again, the game perhaps, and things like that. But I still fancy them to win because they have such strength in depth. They could call on an entire team back home to come and start again.
I know Robert has a soft spot for France.
Yes, I do.
I don't know if because of N'Golo Kante.
No, since time immemorial.
Do you think they'll make it against Denmark?
I think they will. There is a lot of beef, if I may say, if I may use that word. Back in 2002. When France made a horrible, title defense. Yeah. One of the teams that they faced was Denmark, and actually I vividly remember this match. France lost 2-0. Dennis Romadel and Yondal Thomasson. These guys were all over France like a rush. So I don't know if it's payback time, because if France wins, they knock Denmark out. But from a Ugandan perspective, there is a Ugandan-born player in the Danish team, Pione Sisto, and it would be really interesting to see how he plays, because I think he's the second best player in Denmark outside Christian Eriksen, who scored a fabulous goal the last time Denmark was playing. So it will be a very interesting match to watch. As Mark said, the Nordic teams, these teams from the Nordic, you expect them to be very, very organized. The Swedens, the Denmarks. I thought, Kasper Schmeichel has been one of the standout goalkeepers in the World Cup, and they're going to be fighting for their lives. But also, the players, the fringe players, Didier Deschamps is going to throw in. You'd expect that they would want to make a case to remain in the team when it's playing in the knockout stages. So they are also going to bring their A game. So it will be an entertaining contest. France has no pressure. The pressure is on Denmark.
Maybe, Andrew, you can touch on Peru and...
Peru is home. I don't have to touch them.
And Australia.
All I can say is...
Tim Cahill in Australia.
Tim Cahill
is like Keshuke Honda. These guys are ageless. For some reason, they're always around. Yes. So I think Australia guys are in with a chance. Yes, because if Denmark lose to France and they beat Peru, because they're on 3 points, Australia, so they're in with a chance. But then again, that complicates matters for the France-Denmark game. Denmark could go for a draw, or they could go for a win. I mean, because they have a chance as well. So Peru is already home. Of course, they'll put in their guys who haven't played and all, but I expect still Australia to get a point out of that game. But I still believe Denmark and France, for some reason, will just go through. Already France is through. And Denmark can put up one last fight. And they'll go along with France.
All right, many thanks, guys. That's sadly all we could have for you.
We are done.
Today, yes, we are done. Many thanks, Mark Sali, for your input. Robert Madoi, Andrew Mangusha, and on social media, thank you very much, Asha Komogisha. Of course, we tried to get Andrew Kabura, who's going by Andre Kaburanov, who is in Russia right now. But we shall be in touch with him as soon as next week. Do catch us same time, same place at the Golden Tulip Hotel next week. From us here, it's good night and goodbye. God bless.